Psalm 23, the King James Bible. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Today is April 21st, and we continue to move through Eastertide. Remember, the season of Easter lasts 50 days, from Easter morning right up to the day of Pentecost. Yes, today is the fourth Sunday of Easter, which is also known as Good Shepherd Sunday. It is a morning when both the appointed psalm and the appointed gospel reading offer up pastoral images of God and Jesus. In Psalm 23, God is the good shepherd that provides all we need. And in the gospel, according to John chapter 10, Jesus is the good shepherd who lays down his life for his sheep. Today is also the day before Earth Day, an annual global event for people to demonstrate support for environmental protection and stewardship of the planet's finite resources. Tomorrow will be the 54th Earth Day. The first one was held on April 22nd, 1970. The intersection between faith and creation care is not new. In fact, it is one issue on which Christians who have very different approaches to the Bible and to theology can often agree and work together. And why is that? Because of the shared belief that God made the earth and we must care for God's creation. Psalm 23, it's probably the best known of all 150 psalms in the Bible. It is often read aloud at funerals and memorial services. It has been set to music hundreds of times, including the opening hymn we just sang. People who have no church affiliation whatsoever are still likely to have encountered the 23rd Psalm at some point in their lives. And those opening verses of the Psalm, so beautiful, they immediately situate us in the natural world. God is our shepherd. God makes us lie down in green pastures. God leads us beside still waters. Have you ever lain down in a green pasture? I mean, literally, not, sort of dreaming it up in your head. I'm not sure that I have. I think the closest I've gotten is maybe lying down on the grass in a public park, looking up at the sky and the clouds, the underbelly of the trees. Have you ever spent time by still waters? Not the ocean and its perpetual waves, not the river and its zigzagging energy, but time spent by still waters, perfectly quiet, perfectly flat, unbothered. That I have done. In my hometown in Illinois, there was a small body of water called Prince Pond. It was a hangout for high schoolers. It was tucked in a residential section of town. There was nothing flashy about it. But Prince Pond could get so still. Its face could get so perfectly still that your eye would be drawn to the tiniest bug that alit on the surface. While these two experiences of lying down in green pastures and being beside still waters, they are just two examples of the profundity of creation and the upwelling of holiness we often feel in the natural world. When we have such experiences, we enter into the flow. We enter into the divine yes that animates and gives life to all things. This entering the flow, this being in the flow, was beautifully expressed by a man named Loren Eiseley. He is not as well known as other naturalist writers. Think Henry David Thoreau, Walt Whitman, Mary Oliver, Terry Tempest Williams, Wendell Berry. Not as well known as them, but his contributions to nature writing are significant. Loren Eiseley was an American anthropologist, educator, and nature writer during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s until his death in 1977. He lived in Nebraska, and he spent a lot of time at, in, and on the Platte River. Eiseley's best-known work is a collection of essays called The Immense Journey. One of those essays entitled The Flow of the River. And in that essay, Loren Eiseley recalls a mystical experience he had while floating in the Platte River. I'm going to read a portion of that essay. Here is what he writes. If there is magic on this planet, it is contained in water. Once in a lifetime, perhaps, one escapes the confines of the flesh. Once in a lifetime, if one is lucky, one so merges with sunlight and air and running water that whole eons might pass in a single afternoon. The mind has sunk away into its beginnings among old roots and the obscure tricklings and movings that stir inanimate things. One can never quite define this secret, but it has something to do, I am sure, with common water. Water, its substance, reaches everywhere. It touches the past and prepares the future. Eiseley continues, many years ago, in the course of some scientific investigations, I experienced by chance precisely this curious absorption by water. I floated. I had shed my clothes and was floundering pleasantly in a hold among some reeds when a great desire to stretch out and go with this gently insistent water began to pluck at me. I lay back in the floating position with my face to the sky, and I shoved off. And the sky wheeled over me. For an instant, I had the sensation of sliding down the vast tilted face of the continent. Moving with me, leaving its taste upon my mouth, was the immense body of the continent itself, flowing like the river was flowing down to the sea. I was streaming over ancient seabeds, thrust aloft where giant reptiles had once sported. I was wearing down the face of time. I felt great fishes glide about their work. I drifted by stranded timber cut by beaver. I slid over the mired bones of mammoths. I was streaming alive through the hot ferment of the sun. I was water. I was water. I was water. This mystical experience, this ecstatic oneness with water, was for Loren Eiseley a thin place between human and divine. The water carried him. God carried him. Creation carried him. The cosmos carried him. He was one with the earth. None of us will have that experience that Lauren Isley had that day floating on the Platte River. But nature is ready and waiting for us, whether in a landscape far from here or right in our own backyard. Nature is ready and waiting for us. Nature's power and soothing balm are available to anyone who pays attention. It is up to us to listen, look, smell, touch, and be. It's also up to us to tend, preserve, care for, heal, protect, and restore. And that brings me to a wonderful project that is underway here at the old SAP UCC. Actually, projects, plural. They are landscaping projects, gardening projects. Here are the specifics. We're going to put in a rain garden, some raised beds, a pollinator garden, native plants, more seating outdoors, right here on our corner of Commonwealth and Chelmsford. It will happen in phases, but it is already in process. It is the right time, and we have the right people. Leah Magstad, our Director of Children, Youth, and Family Ministries, is a key part in the impetus of this visioning and planning process, and he is working with our children on planting seeds and tending the seedlings as they grow, teaching them about water, all through a faith-based perspective. And we have Judy Petkow, Master Gardener, and she is lending her expertise and commitment to us, choosing native plants and other things to add to the enterprise. And we have a scout named Zach from Troop 17. He's going to make it his Eagle project, where he has to demonstrate leadership and planning and delegation and follow through. Zach is going to be part of the project. And we have Jacob Risto, our office manager. He is a serious gardener himself. He has a head and a heart for creation care, and he gladly is part of the project team. And finally, with the trustees' support, the council just approved the use of memorial funds that have been designated for buildings and grounds to fund part of the project, especially this early phase. So why are we making this a priority? Well, several fabulous reasons. First, of course, to beautify our landscape so that anyone and everyone who passes by might have their spirits lifted by nature's beauty and diversity, if even only for a few moments. Second, we're doing it to welcome more bees and butterflies and birds and insects and critters to the neighborhood, inviting them to flourish right here. We need them. We need them. Third, we're doing this to be good stewards of what has been entrusted to us and to care for it responsibly in order to pass it along to the next generation and next and next and next. Fourth, we are doing this to empower the church's children and youth and to support Zach from Troop 17 as they have agency in caring for creation. Not just talking about it, not just learning about it, but doing it. Fifth, we're doing this to harness spiritual gifts of people right here in the congregation, putting them into motion for a larger purpose. Sixth, we're doing this to take meaningful action for the earth and to do our part instead of succumbing to despair. And seventh, we're doing this to expand our thinking of what the sacred is. This sanctuary, wood and glass and lights and carpet, organ, piano, the sanctuary is the house of the Lord, and so are the trees and the grasses in the front yard and the boulevards and our back lawn. Remember, the psalmist wrote, "Surely the goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." The house of the Lord can be eternity with God, after we die. And the house of the Lord can also be the here and now while we are alive with God, with nature. On this fourth Sunday of Easter, on this eve of Earth Day, honoring Lauren Isley's oneness with water, and with our church's wonderful garden project in mind, I invite us all to listen again to Psalm 23. Ruth, if you would please come and read.
Psalm 23 from the New Testament and Psalms, an inclusive version Bible. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters. God restores my soul. God leads me in the paths of righteousness for the sake of God's name. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God my whole life long.